Did you enjoy Overwatch? Would you play Paladins?
What's up guys? As you can tell by the title of this video, this is going to be Self-Defense 101, the basics. And what I mean by that is, a lot of this is going to be common sense or things you already know, but it's going to set us up for future videos that are going to have different topics such as defending against knife attacks, defending against people with guns, home invaders, things like that. So this is going to be the first video in a series that I'm going to be making. So hopefully you guys find this interesting or helpful. Now before we get started, I just want to say I don't condone violence. You shouldn't go looking for a fight or picking fights with people, but these videos are meant to be tools to get you thinking about ways to protect yourself and those around you. Alright, so for today's scenario, we're going to be looking at unarmed versus unarmed. So you don't have any weapons, you don't have a gun, knife, pepper spray, anything on you. And also the person attacking you doesn't have any weapons or anything like that on them either. There's not going to be any surprises. This is just very basic and simple, unarmed versus unarmed. So the first thing you can do in this situation is retreat. If there's no one in your immediate area, if you're outside in the public doing whatever, running errands or going to the store, get to some place with people. So go into a restaurant, a store, a bar, wherever you are. Get to some place where there's other people so that they can help resolve the situation or help you out if you need it. If you feel threatened or you feel like your life is in danger, don't be afraid to call out for help. Call for other people. Get people's attention so that they know something's going on and they can contact the police or someone can help you out, come to your aid. Your pride isn't worth more than your health and safety, so don't be afraid to call out for help. Don't be ashamed of calling out for help. Everyone needs help once in a while, and especially if someone is attacking you, you need help. You don't want to get hurt or don't want to potentially get seriously injured by someone else. So don't be afraid to retreat and call out for help, even though it seems like it might be wimpy or childish or whatever other words you would call it. It's not. It's looking out for yourself and those around you, letting someone know that something is going on. Now we'll get into actually having to protect yourself. Now, if you're in a fight with someone, if someone is going hands-on, they're punching you, they're kicking you, harming you in any way, don't be afraid to fight dirty. This isn't a game. This is life. You need to protect yourself. So punch, kick, bite, gouge their eyes, pull their hair, do whatever you gotta do to get out of that situation and get yourself to safety, because you don't want to get into the worst situation, which is them seriously hurting you or killing you. That is what you want to avoid. So do everything in your power to resolve that situation and stop the fight, or retreat and get away. So now I'm going to show you how to throw a punch, because a lot of people probably haven't been in an actual fight or they haven't had any real training in self-defense or anything like that. So I thought when I was learning how to punch when I was in boxing that it was pretty self-explanatory. You just make a fist and punch. But apparently different people have different ways of forming a fist. So this is the correct way, making sure your thumb is across your other fingers like that. Some people apparently have it off to the side like that, or tuck it underneath their other fingers like that, but that's really dangerous because you're going to hurt your thumb doing that. You're going to have a dislocated thumb, a broken thumb. When you make contact with something, it's going to jam your thumb back like that, and that kind of actually hurts me already, and I'm not even actually punching. So make sure when you're punching, you're making a fist like this, where your thumb is across your other fingers. If you have it out like that, it's going to jam into whatever you're punching. So make sure you're making the correct fist for punching when you're actually doing this. So next, when you're going to actually punch something, make sure you know where you want to punch. You just don't want to be throwing random punches all over. So your arms, not going to hurt them very much. You want to make sure you aim for the head and the body. So the stomach area, you can kick the groin area if you're able to. But make sure you're throwing good punches. Don't waste your energy and your time with throwing bad punches or slapping or doing whatever. Make sure you get good punches in, so that way hopefully you can stop the fight or get away. So make sure you're coming from your body and not just throwing, random punches. So make sure you're getting good punches in and using your body weight behind you to add extra force to your punches. So that's the basics for punching. I'll get into that in a later video. I am going to have a video about boxing, so that'll get into more of that. But that's a little bit of throwing a better punch than just Hail Marys. Now, when you're in a fight, you want to make sure you stay on your feet as much as you can. Unless you have training in judo or other groundwork, you're going to want to try and stay on your feet as much as you can, because if you get on the ground, it's a whole different ballgame. If you don't have any prior experience with fighting or judo or anything like that, you're probably not going to do well when you're on the ground. So make sure, if you're going against someone, you have a good center of gravity. Make sure that your feet are shoulder width apart, you have a decent fighting stance if you're going to be fighting someone. That way it's harder for them to get you on the ground. So make sure you're just ready to go, you're on the balls of your feet, and you can move around fast and be able to run or do whatever you got to do in the situation. Alright, so now let's say you're in the fight and you somehow get put in a headlock or a chokehold from behind. So you're basically going to be in this position with the person behind you. Now, what can you do in this position to get out of this or get away from the person? Because they're behind you, you can only do so much. You can't really kick them or use your legs at all. So what you got to do is either throw punches behind you or throw some elbows into their body to try and break their grip or get away from them. Alright, so now let's talk about you're in the fight and somehow you get put into a chokehold or some sort of hold from behind, a headlock or whatever. So you can't do a whole lot in this situation. What you gotta do is either start throwing elbows into their body or try and find where their head is and punch their head and face. That way hopefully it'll break their grip on your neck or however they're holding you, and you can get away from them and turn and fight or run or do whatever you're going to do. But that's kind of how you would escape that, unless you know more judo stuff, which I'll get into in a later video, where you can do some different throws and things like that. But that would be how most people would have to get away. It's just by throwing elbows or trying to punch the person over your shoulder to just break their grip on your neck, or, like I said, however they're holding you. So this next one is going to be if someone is trying to kidnap you or try and take you somewhere or drag you somewhere. I can get this here. Basically, if they end up throwing you over their shoulder, again, there's not much you can do to combat that. Basically, if you're like this, over their shoulder, obviously you can't do much with your legs. I mean, you can try and flail around and try and break their grip and fall to the ground or whatever. But if you're over their shoulder, their head is going to be right by your elbows and your hands. So you can start elbowing the back of their head or punching the back of their head. If you hit their back, it's not going to do too much. So the back of the head is going to be the most vulnerable part of them, so that hopefully you can again break their grip and get away. Now, if you do end up on the ground in a ground fight with someone, it's going to be a lot harder, and I'll show you ways in future videos how you can get out of that or fight people on the ground. But if you're on the ground and someone has the advantage on you, they're above you and they're punching you or trying to choke you, especially if they're trying to choke you, they're not going to be protecting themselves, because if they have their hands around your neck or are punching you, they're not protecting themselves. So when you're on the ground, even if you want to get the pressure off your neck if they're choking you or try and block their punches, you can get punches in, and that will stop them from doing whatever they're doing. If you try and get the pressure off your neck, it's not going to work because they have the advantage and they have a lot more pressure or a lot more force that they can use from above than what you can press up. So trying to pry their hands from your neck isn't going to work. You're going to need to go to other means to distract them and hopefully stop them from doing what they're doing. So their head and face are going to be the most vulnerable part at that point, so you can get punches in that way. And hopefully that'll get the hands away from your neck and you can start breathing and start recovering again. Alright, hopefully you guys found this video entertaining or helpful, especially if you've never been in a fight or don't have any experience in hand-to-hand combat or anything like that. So make sure you look forward to my future videos where I get more in-depth with everything. Like I said, this was just a very, very base level of information for you to help out if you're ever in a situation where you need to defend yourself and others. So make sure you guys like this video, subscribe, leave some comments on different tips you have for just self-defense in general, if you have any. And I look forward to seeing you guys next week. Thanks for watching. Be kind and be yourself.